Have you ever caught yourself humming an old tune, maybe something from your teenage years, and suddenly felt a little spark light up inside? You know, that moment where the world feels a bit brighter and your mind seems to wake up? It's funny how music has that kind of magic, isn't it? Well, today, I want to talk to you about something that's close to my heart, and I bet it'll strike a chord with you too. We're going to dive into how picking up a musical instrument, even at this stage of life, can do wonders for your brain. I'm talking about sharpening your memory, keeping your mind nimble, and maybe even adding a little pep to your step. It's not just about playing a few notes. It's about giving your brain a workout that feels more like a treat than a chore. Now, you might be thinking, oh, come on, I'm too old to start something new like that. But let me tell you, that's just not true. Our brains are incredible. They don't just stop growing or adapting because we've hit 60, 70, or beyond. In fact, they're hungry for a challenge, and music might be the perfect way to feed them. Whether you've never touched an instrument in your life or you used to strum a guitar back in the day, there's something here for you. Over the course of this video, we're going to explore how playing an instrument can boost your brain health, with a special focus on memory and mental agility. We'll talk about why it works, how it can fit into your life, and even some simple ways to get started without feeling overwhelmed. So, grab a cup of tea, get comfy, and let's start with the first big reason this matters. Imagine your brain like a filing cabinet, one that's been collecting memories, experiences, and little bits of wisdom for decades. Sometimes, though, it feels like those drawers get a little sticky, doesn't it? You walk into a room and forget why you're there, or you can't quite place a name that's right on the tip of your tongue. It happens to all of us, and it's totally normal as we age. But here's the good news. Playing an instrument can help oil those drawers and keep them sliding open smoothly. Studies have shown that when you learn to play music, you're not just memorizing notes or rhythms. You're giving your brain a full-on workout. It's like sending it to the gym, but instead of lifting weights, you're lifting melodies. Think about it this way. When you sit down to play, say, a piano, you've got to remember which keys make which sounds. Your fingers start to figure out where to go, and your ears tune in to whether it's right or wrong. That's your memory kicking into gear. Short-term memory at first, as you fumble through a tune, and then long-term memory as you practice and start to play it without peeking at the sheet music. Researchers have found that folks who play instruments, even later in life, tend to have better recall for all kinds of things, not just music. It's like training your brain to hold on to details, whether it's a song or where you park the car. And the best part? Doesn't feel like work. It's fun, it's creative, and before you know it, you're surprising yourself with how much you can remember. Let me tell you about my friend Margaret. She's 72, and a couple of years ago, she decided to pick up the ukulele. She'd never played anything before, said she didn't have a musical bone in her body, but she saw a little class advertised at the community center and thought, why not? At first, she struggled to remember the chords. She'd laugh and say her fingers felt like they belonged to someone else. But after a few weeks, something clicked. She started playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow without looking at her notes. And she noticed other things too, like how she wasn't misplacing her glasses as often. She told me, it's like my brain got a tune-up. That's the kind of boost we're talking about here. It's not about becoming a concert musician. It's about giving your mind a little nudge to stay sharp. Now, memory's just one piece of the puzzle. Let's talk about mental agility, keeping your brain quick on its feet. As we get older, it's easy to feel like our thoughts slow down a bit, like we're wading through molasses instead of skipping along a stream. Playing an instrument can help shake off that sluggishness. When you're learning a new piece of music, Your brain has to juggle a lot at once. You're reading the notes, moving your hands, listening to the sound, and maybe even tapping your foot to keep time. It's a dance of coordination, and it lights up all kinds of connections in your head. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, a fancy word for your brain's ability to rewire itself and stay flexible. And trust me, that flexibility is like gold as we age. Take my neighbor Jim, for example. He's 68 and started messing around with a harmonica last year. He'd always loved blues music, so he figured he'd give it a shot. At first, he said it felt like his brain was tripping over itself, trying to breathe right, hit the notes, and not sound like a rusty gate all at once. But after a while, he noticed he was quicker with other things too. He'd solve the crossword faster or catch a mistake in his checkbook before it turned into a headache. That's mental agility in action. Your brain learning to hop from one task to another without missing a beat. And for Jim, it all started with a little huffing and puffing on that harmonica. So, we've covered how playing an instrument can polish up your memory and keep your mind agile. It's like giving your brain a double dose of goodness, all wrapped up in something you can enjoy. But how does this really work? What's going on inside your head when you pluck a string or tap a key? That's where things get even more interesting. So let's dive into that next. So, we've been chatting about how picking up an instrument can sharpen your memory and keep your mind nimble, like a little spring cleaning for your brain. But you might be wondering, okay, that sounds great, but what's actually happening up there when I play a tune? Well, let's take a peek inside that marvelous head of yours and see what's going on. When you sit down with, say, a guitar or a keyboard, it's not just your fingers that get busy. Your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. And I don't mean that in some poetic way. Scientists have watched this happen with fancy machines that show which parts of your brain are working hard. And let me tell you, it's a party in there. Every time you practice a song, you're building new pathways between different areas of your brain. Picture it like laying down fresh trails in a forest. There's the part that handles what you hear, the part that moves your hands, and the part that keeps track of the rhythm, all talking to each other at once. It's like they're having a friendly catch-up over coffee, except they're doing it at lightning speed. And the more you play, the stronger those trails get. That's why, after a while, you don't have to think so hard about where your fingers go. They just know. It's your brain getting smarter about connecting the dots. And that's a skill that spills over into everyday life too. Ever notice how solving a puzzle gets easier the more you do it? Same idea here. Now, let's talk about something really exciting. How this can help protect your brain as you age. We all know that getting older comes with its challenges. And sometimes that includes things like fuzzy thinking, or even worries about conditions like dementia. I'm not saying playing a harmonica will cure everything, but there's solid evidence that it can give your brain a fighting chance. Researchers have found that people who play instruments tend to have a thicker cortex. That's the outer layer of your brain, where a lot of the heavy lifting happens. It's like adding an extra layer of armor to keep your mind strong. And for folks over 60, that extra boost can make a real difference in staying sharp and independent. Take my cousin Linda, for instance. She's 65 and started playing the violin a few years back. She'd always wanted to try it as a kid, but never got the chance. At first, she was all thumbs. Well, all bow, I suppose. She'd laugh and say she sounded like a cat in a rainstorm. But she stuck with it, taking little lessons online. And now, she can play a decent Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. More than that, though, she swears it's helped her stay on top of things. She used to struggle with multitasking, like cooking dinner while chatting on the phone. But now, she says it's easier to keep everything straight. That's her brain flexing those new pathways, proving it's never too late to teach an old dog or an old brain new tricks. And here's another perk that might surprise you. Playing an instrument can lift your spirits while it's boosting your brain. You know how music has a way of tugging at your heartstrings? Well, when you're the one making it, that feeling gets even stronger. It's like you're telling your brain, hey, let's have some fun while we work. Studies show that playing music releases little bursts of happiness chemicals, like dopamine, in your head. That's the stuff that makes you feel good when you hug a grandkid or bite into a warm cookie. So, while you're strengthening your memory and agility, you're also giving yourself a mood boost. It's a win-win, if you ask me. Think about my pal George, who's 70 and took up the drums. Yes, the drums. His wife wasn't thrilled at first, said it sounded like a construction site in their living room, but he got some quiet pads to practice with, and now he bangs out a beat whenever he's feeling low. He told me, it's like all the grumpiness just spills out through the sticks, and he's noticed his mind feels clearer too, like he's shaking off the cobwebs. That's the beauty of it. You're not just exercising your brain, you're giving your whole self a lift. So, whether it's a gentle strum on a ukulele or a lively tap on a drum, you're doing something good for your head and your heart. Now that we've explored what's happening inside your brain and how it can brighten your days, let's think about how to make this part of your life. How do you even start, especially if you've never played before or it's been decades since you last tried? That's where the fun really begins. So let's keep going and figure it out together. All right. So we've been talking about how playing an instrument lights up your brain, strengthens those mental pathways, and even sprinkles a little joy into your days. It's like a gift you give yourself, one that keeps on giving. But I can almost hear you saying, that sounds wonderful, but where do I even begin? Don't worry. We're going to walk through this together, step by step, so it feels less like a mountain to climb and more like a stroll through the park. Whether you're a complete beginner or someone who used to tinker with a tune years ago, there's a way to make this work for you, and it's easier than you might think. Let's start with picking an instrument. This part's important because it's got to be something that sparks a little excitement in you. Maybe you've always loved the sound of a piano drifting through a quiet room, or perhaps the twang of a guitar takes you back to those summer nights listening to the radio. It doesn't have to be fancy or complicated. Something like a ukulele is small, affordable, and pretty friendly to start with. My friend Ruth, who's 67, went with a keyboard because she could plug in headphones and practice without bothering her cat. The point is, choose something that feels right for you, something that makes you smile when you think about playing it. That's half the battle right there, finding a little joy in the idea before you even start. Once you've got your instrument, the next step is to dip your toes in without feeling like you've got to be a maestro overnight. You don't need to sign up for big, expensive lessons if that's not your style. There's so much out there now. Little online videos or apps that guide you through the basics, one note at a time. Take it slow, maybe just 10 or 15 minutes a day. That's enough to wake your brain up without wearing you out. I remember my Uncle Ted, who's 73, starting with a harmonica. He'd sit on his porch every afternoon, playing the same 3 notes until they sounded right. He'd grin and say, I'm not Bob Dylan yet, but I'm getting there. It's that gentle pace that keeps it fun and lets your brain build those new connections without any pressure. And here's a little trick. Tie it to something you already do. Maybe you play a few chords after your morning coffee, or you hum along while dinner's in the oven. Making it part of your routine helps it stick. And before you know it, you're looking forward to those moments. My neighbor Sally, 69, started playing her flute again after years of letting it gather dust. She'd practice while her tea steeped, just 5 minutes at first. Now, she's up to half an hour, And she says it's the best part of her day, keeps her mind buzzing and her spirits high. It's not about how long you play, it's about showing up for it, little by little, and letting your brain soak it all in. Now, as you get going, you might hit a bump or two. Maybe your fingers feel stiff, or you forget a note you thought you had down pat. That's okay. It's all part of the process. Your brain's learning, stretching, growing, even when it feels like you're fumbling. Think of it like planting a seed. It doesn't sprout into a flower overnight, but every bit of water and sunshine helps it along. Keep at it, and you'll start to notice the changes, how a tune comes easier, or how you catch yourself remembering something else with a little more clarity. It's those small wins that add up, proving your brain's still got plenty of spark left in it. So, here we are. We've talked about how playing an instrument boosts your memory, keeps your mind agile, and even wraps it all up in a feel-good package. It's not just some far-off dream. It's something you can start today, right where you are. All it takes is a little curiosity and a willingness to try. And isn't that what life's about anyway? Finding new ways to shine, no matter how many candles are on the cake. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What instrument's calling your name? Or maybe you've already started and want to share how it's going. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and hit that subscribe button for more ideas to keep living your best life. Here's to keeping our minds sharp and our hearts full. Cheers to that.